Welcome back. Brian and I just went and watched as the players were building their decks. Some interesting stuff, highlighted, I think, by Paul Reitzel just not having the deck that we thought he was going to have.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That was the biggest revelation for me.
He did not take the white signal at all.
Right, so he first picks Skeleton Eyes. Totally, it's funny. I talked to him, too. He saw the Tower Gargoyle. He joked, and Kibler is at the same table building, so Kibler's listening to this conversation. And he says, if he'd been on the right, he would have taken the Tower Gargoyle, and he would have screwed his buddy.
And he said in a vacuum, that he would have, if he didn't know who was feeding him, he would have taken the Tower Gargoyle, and both of their draft decks would have been a disaster. So Paul was definitely benefited from, knowing Brian's preference.
Right. Right.
He said, I would have taken Tower Gargoyle, and we both would have just been in an abyss.
Yeah. So Paul takes the Skeleton Eyes. He then gets shipped the Michaeloth, which is the obvious thing. But his theory is he knows Kibler's an Esper, so he figures Esper's often base white-blue. And so he just stayed away from the white.
Right.
Like, he didn't go in for the Steward. He didn't go in for the other Steward. And then he actually shipped both the Knight of New Alaris. Did you see they wound up in the same deck, though?
They did.
They went, I think, 7th and 8th in fact.
Very, very late.
Yeah, Tom Ross has got both Knights. He's got one of the Stewards. He's got basically the green-white deck that we thought Paul Reitzel had, and somehow it's all the way on the other side of the table. He's going to be playing Reitzel in the quarterfinals.
Oh, wow.
Reitzel actually has to play against the green-white deck that he could have had.
Yeah, and speaking of decks that we were kind of expecting, we were sort of putting Zach Hill on Esper.
Yeah, he's Esper.
He's kind of Esper. I mean, he's actually kind of zombie.
Yes, that's fair.
He's got more of a zombie-themed deck.
Yeah, so the Death Baron that we saw flow through Kibler wound up in Zach Hill's hands. The Lich Lord, Unks the Lich Lord, that we saw flow through Kibler wound up in Zach Hill's hands. So I look at Zach, he's building his deck, and he's like, I've never played this guy before. I don't know if he's good, but he's got all the right creature types. So 2 copies of Infectious Horror are in Zach Hill's deck. Not only does Death Baron pump them up, not only does the Lich Lord see them, but he's got 2 copies of Mask of Riddles. Right. So he can make them really hard to block. Now suddenly he's getting in there for 4 a turn. They can't block, which is the problem with that guy. 4 power for 4 would be totally reasonable if it all wasn't for the 2 toughness. So he's got 2 masks, he's got 2 tribal effects, and he looks at me and he's like, yeah, and you know what? If I'm wrong, we're playing 4 sideboarded games. I'll just sideboard them out.
When I walked up to him about the deck, he said, deck's a little loose, but I think it's very good.
Yeah, he did seem genuinely excited about it, and there was a little sort of smirk. Loose was the word he used with me.
He did first pick the Clarier's Capsule, like we had said.
And
said it was absolutely the worst pack he'd ever seen in his life.
Wow.
And then it was Christmas morning when he got past the
worst pack of his life. So that pack is Lich's Mirror, Behemoth's Herald, Scourge Devil, Jund Battle Mage, Naya Panorama, Lightning Talons, Cathartic Adept, Obelisk, Blister Beetle, Coma Veil, Wave Skimmer, Plow Beast, Bane Wasp Affliction, always a good one, and Courier's Capsule.
Yeah. And then the next,
it is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty
especially
bad.
For this draft.
Yeah, and then the next pack's Christmas morning, he gets past a second pick Tower Gargoyle.
Yeah, those come the other order, and you're fine. You're like, I first pick Tower Gargoyle. Of course I'll second pick.
He opens up a Banefire in the second pack.
Yeah, and he was the one who wound up with the Crumbling Necropolis too, randomly.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, that helps.
Well, he is not someone who's going to let mana fixing go by him.
Definitely not. So Zach's got Esper plus a Banefire with multiple tribal effects going on. I still think Kibler should have taken Unks, but Zach will have fun with it. Zach has the little kid deck.
Right.
No question.
Talking to Kibler, he felt that with the 2 walls, with the Scepter of Dominance, that he was able to buy enough time.
Isn't that when
to get to his win condition, which was going to be Sludge Strider, Kaleidostone, Esperzella.
Sure.
So he felt he had the win condition sort of already locked up, and then he really just wanted additional mana fixing, and he felt that was more important. And even more importantly, it gave him an additional density of artifacts. Right, it increased his artifact density, so that was also that was the typical. He loves.
He's very happy.
He loves his deck. So he's playing against Conley Woods.
Yes.
And so we talked about Conley's opens.
Speaking of people who love their decks.
Yeah. Conley has Caldera, Hellion, and Lava Lance as sort of the opening highlights.
Right.
And I thought his approach to building the deck was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Did you take a look at it? I mean, he's got a couple cards in there that, he's got like a Parasitic Strix and a Mechanist that are a little hard to turn on and don't do a lot, but they're really there because he doesn't have a ton of creatures, and they're mostly there as fodder for the Hellion.
Yeah, I was definitely struck by his curve was the other thing. I don't think he has a 2-drop creature in his deck.
Right.
He's 5-color, so he's expecting to spend his early turns fixing his mana, and he's got really powerful effects. So yeah, the creatures are sparse and generally expensive.
Right. Minamura's deck?
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. He was disappointed that he did not have a lot of 2-drops. But he did end up with 2 Vithian Stingers and a Quietus Spike.
Right,
so
oh, goodness gracious.
So he
running the Quietus Spike?
He was running the Quietus Spike. He had it smacked on top of his 2 Vithian Stingers.
Nice.
He wanted them to get to know each other, feel comfortable around each other, sort of hang out in the same circles.
Yeah, he went first pick Drum Hunter, second pick Stinger, third pick Stinger.
And his Drum Hunter does not do very much for him. He has 2 5-power creatures in his deck. He actually might have 3 5-power creatures in his deck. He is going to run it, but he can actually make a couple of other creatures get over the top with his red ability of his Naya Battle Mage.
Okay.
Which the Naya Battle Mage suddenly becomes draw a card.
Sure. Not bad. Minamura plays against Christophe Gregoire, and I loved Gregoire's deck.
I think Gregoire's moved up in my pick order for this draft.
The thing is, he is not confident in it. So Gregoire, we talked about the fact that he opened Flame Blast Dragon. That's always nice. He also opened Megalanoth, took that. The thing is, he wound up not playing any white. He wound up not playing any green either. He is 2-color red black. He took the Flame Blast Dragon. He got shipped those Blightnings that we saw floating around the table, and so he actually managed to get into a red-black deck. The red-black deck for Gregoire, 2-color. He said he'd never played actual 2-color before.
Right. And yeah, he was disappointed with the removal in his deck.
Okay.
That was his concern, is he didn't have a lot of traditional removal. And he has 2 Wretched Banquets that he drafted, but he's got a Goblin Assault and Cathari Bombers. So he's just like, I'm going to have a lot of 1/1s. Right. The Wretched Banquets, he can't play both of them. He's running one, and leaves one on the bench.
He has some really good green cards in his sideboard, too. I mean, he had Might of Alara that he wound up not running. He had some big monsters that he wound up not running. But I think he made the right decision.
If anyone stumbles, they're gonna get run over by him very, very quickly.
The quote-unquote bad cards that he says he's not real happy to be running, I think are actually quite fine, like Breath of Malphagor. Breath of Malphagor, if you're starting an aggressive black-red deck, you're like Blightning. That 5 damage is very relevant. I mean, Lava Axe was good back in the day.
If there's a deck that it's going to be good in, it's his.
Right. But I mean, my plan, the other one is Demonic Dread. He's like, I don't know, but I'm like, this starts to add up into a really nice, tight little synergistic.
I think there's a lot of synergy in his deck, and very little opportunity for his deck to stumble on.
Right. And I think he just hasn't actually played this deck before.
Right.
But, I mean, smart guy, and it kind of fell to him, and he went with it, and, built it 2-color, got rid of the green splash. He's super tight, consistent, 2-color, and, I think his deck looks really good.
Right. What do you think about Tom Ross's deck?
Tom Ross's deck looks great to me. I mean, he's the one who got the green-white dream that Reitzel could have had. Double Knight of Lualara. It could have been better. I mean, when I was talking to him, he's like, it's good, but he kept thinking back about what could have been, because he could have been 2-color green-white if he'd been, like, tunnel visioned all the way through. He could have been 2-color green-white, but he's not. He's got red in the deck. I mean, it's some good cards, but, like, he wishes he had another Bant Sureblade and, just another couple of aggro 2-drops, 2-color mana base. Could have been just spectacular, and instead it's good.
Right. Did you look at Michael Hepke's deck?
I didn't get a close look at it.
So I did. His first pick out of his pack, which was the 7th pack. Take a look at his pack and tell me what you think he took out of that pack.
First pick?
First pick.
So the pack is Death Duelist, Plowbeast, Dreadscape, Aven, Visionary, Dragon Fodder.
And remember, you guys at home are going to be able to sit down and do all these drafts through the draft viewer.
Crumbling Necropolis, Firefield Ogre, Platoon, Goblin Assault.
Yeah, what are you taking out of that pack?
I probably take Stinger.
What if
maybe Executioner's Capstone? I take Stinger.
What if Martin Juza told you to be blue-white?
If Martin Juice had told me to be blue-white, I might just listen to him.
So he
didn't take the Death Duelist.
He did take the Death Duelist.
I thought that's Kibler's Death Duelist.
No.
Kibler third picked that Death Duelist.
He told me he had first picked it. So maybe
where did Kibler's Death Duelist?
Maybe he was fibbing.
Oh, Mitamura had a Death Duelist.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, Kibler second picked Death Duelist.
Right.
So he first picked Death Duelist. Wow.
And he was hoping to be very blue-white, but he ended up getting a late Bant Charm.
Okay.
And some other Bant cards, and he ended up being a little more Banty than he's comfortable with. But I thought his deck looked. He's got both the Esper Cormorants we saw floating around the table. He's got a very, very nice aggressive blue-white package that sort of is a little compromised by having to accommodate green cards.
Got it. And this is why Kibler didn't see much after he took that Death Duelist.
Right.
So yeah, we were kind of right. We sensed that there must be, maybe it's an Esper deck, maybe it's just a blue-white deck, maybe it's Bant. Sitting, and it turns out it was, 2 to Kibler's right. Makes sense.
So it was Hebke who took, first pick Death Duelist, second pick Seaside Citadel.
Sure.
And I think a third pick, he might have taken Cathari Screecher.
Makes sense.
So, he was pretty dedicated blue-white. His deck looks like it could come out of the gates very, very quickly as well.
I agree. It looked pretty good.
As long as he doesn't trip over his green mana, like he'd be very happy to never draw his green mana or his green cards. So,
let's go through the matchups.
Okay.
The players are, we can see, sitting down, starting to get mic'd up. We're not too far away. They've got their, take a bathroom break, get ready for the quarterfinals. Paul Reitzel versus Tom Ross. What do you like? Reitzel's got pretty good red-green. Ross has got pretty good green and white.
Ross can come roaring out of the gate. I got to give the edge to Reitzel. I think Michael Off is just such a powerful card, and the removal in Reitzel's deck should be pretty good against the green and white.
How much removal did he wind up with? There wasn't a ton of removal in this draft.
But we certainly saw the Skeleton Eyes.
Right.
And we don't have his list in front of us yet.
No, I'm just trying to think of what Kibler passed him, and Kibler passed him creatures.
Right.
Kibler was consistently passing him really good creatures. I don't remember much in the way of removal spells.
Maybe he's a little white.
I mean, unless we didn't get to see Conflux, what was coming into him in Conflux. Right. But I like Tom Ross there. I think Tom Ross's deck, just the raw power. I mean, Knight of New Alara is going to come down. There's a million gold creatures in Tom Ross's deck. But you've also Knight of New Alara.
You've also had that draft with the Knight of New Alara, though, and you come down and it's a 2/2, and you've got a green guy, and
right.
It's sort of like the same thing we're talking about the Arsenal Thresher, where that card can be a little inconsistent.
Sure.
I'm gonna go with Reitzel here.
All right. We'll see.
That's my pick.
All right, the other match on that side of the bracket, Mitamura versus Gregoire.
Boy, I really like Gregoire here, if not for the two stingers in Mitamura's deck.
That is a bad matchup for him, isn't it?
It seems like it could be a little troublesome, and there's not a ton of removal for Gregoire to deal with them.
I see a point. The stingers are very good. I think Gregoire's just got a great deck, though.
Sure.
I think that little black-red deck is really tight, really well set up to win for Gregoire. You're going to pick Mitamura? He's been your pick the whole weekend.
I'm going to pick Mitamura. I know I'm a little tugging at my collar on it because he doesn't have a lot of early plays.
Right.
And he seemed very, very uncomfortable with the deck. But again, I think the two stingers are just let's just say this: they're going to be the key to that matchup.
Yeah, if Gregoire gets a good fast draw, I don't think Mitamura's deck is fast enough to keep up with him. But if Gregoire comes out slow, Mitamura's got the better mid and late game.
Sure.
I mean, if he gets to his 4 drops, if he gets to start dropping rocks brute, and he's still got a comfortable life total, Mitamura should be in good shape.
I have a hard time seeing Hebke beating Zach Hill.
Yeah, Hebke's deck is good, but I think Zach's deck, it's a little loose.
It is. I mean, you're welcome to pick Hebke. I'm gonna stick with Zach Hill on this one.
Fair. And then Kibler versus Conley. Conley Woods, Brian Kibler.
I mean, on raw power, you have to give the matchup to Conley, but
how does he win through double wall of denial?
That's the question. He doesn't have a ton of guys. I mean, his best guys late in the game is his best plays late in the game is going to be his 2 Paragons.
Oh, right.
And,
yeah, Conley
and those don't get through the wall either.
Conley went 5-color, like Conflict, he's just like, oh, here's Paragon of 5-color awesomeness. He got multiples of those things. It's the
he got the red and white Paragon.
He got the red and the white Paragons, right?
He got one of them
plate.
And he was like, okay, I'm clearly the 5-color player here.
Right. But Wall of Denial seems really good against him.
Lavalanche for 8.
I think Lavalanche for 8 is exactly.
11 mana.
It's not like Kibler's got counterspells.
Right. He's got the soul manipulation.
And it's funny, Kibler was showing me his victory condition. He's actually running Ether Rot Page. He got apparently Jamie Park owned him with it in a draft last night. They were doing just sit behind. Kibler's deck seems very good at never dying. He's going to sit behind double wall, get the page running, sort of gain 2 until you start picking off your opponent.
Yeah.
But I mean, Paragon could gain life for Conley, so it's an Ether Rod page. Like, I'm not convinced Kibler. Like, both people are going to have trouble winning. That game could go really long.
I think Kibler is favored in the long game.
I wish he had another couple flyers and an Unks, and then I would like Kibler's deck a lot more. I feel like he's got like Esperzoa Kaleidoscope shenanigans, but if he just had a couple more flyers and an Unks, I think his deck would be. I would like his deck better.
I talked about that Esperzoa pick, and he said that it was a little bit of a gamble for him, but he just felt like there were so many good things possible. Yeah, coming later in that pack and coming in the third pack.
Sure. Was it Esperzoa versus the Cormorants? Is that what happened?
Yeah, it was Esperzoa versus.
I guess that one doesn't bother me. That one doesn't bother me. But then after that, he could have had a Talon Trooper and an Unks in his deck, and instead he's got like.
Right. Well, he took the Arsenal Thresher, which is going to be, I assume he's hoping is going to be a nice fatty for him to, lock up again, continue additional lockup, and he feels like he's going to be able to get through with those, thanks to the
Did you ask him about the Architect at Will?
I didn't ask him about that.
Your Architect's Esperzoa seems like it could have been really good for him there.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's his game, right?
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, he's got.
That's how he gets his Lava Lands answer, right? You just keep the Lava Lands, you never let it get to the top of the library.
Pushing it down, you can have any other card.
How the players doing?
So our picks. Let's go through our picks again here. So we like I like Wrightsville, you like Ross?
Sure.
I kind of like Metamora, you like Gregoire?
Yes.
I'm a little soft on my Metamora pick, but I'm going to stick by it.
I actually think all 4 matches are interesting.
Yeah, I think they're very interesting. Zach Hill over Hebke, where do you fall?
I like Zach a little better.
Yeah, I do too. I
think he's right to run it. He's actually got the deck where you want Infectious Horror. Right.
And I think it's going to be Kibler advancing to the semifinals in the match we're going to start tuning in on.
We will see. They're shuffling up hands. We'll try to get them queued up. Make sure all the mulliganing is happening before we get started.
Right. It was interesting watching Conley get to work on his mana. Yes. Very complex chart.
Kibler's taking a mulligan.
He had a lot of, he's red black, and he's got he's got crystallization in his deck, and he's got the blue cards, and he's got the Paragons, the 5-color deck.
But he's got double. He's got Recluse.
He's got 2 power
green and white,
which he's also counting among his win conditions because if he draws the mana, he can also just play those guys.
He's got an Armillary Sphere,
which can also lock up the ground against the small aerial assault of Kibler.
So what's the Kibler's talking down there? I heard my name. I don't know what he's saying. So Conley Wood's playing in his second Pro Tour.
He played at Worlds before this. This is actually his first Pro Tour in terms of advancing through the ranks of, making it through day 1, getting through day 2, making the top 8.
Yeah. There you go. Look at him, 22 years old.
Yep. He won a PTQ playing Extendigeddon.
Extendigeddon.
He was playing Boom Bust in Johnny and I forget what the other. He had one other. Oh, and he was playing Thoughts of Ruin. He just, really took the extended format by storm. He's just a very interesting deck designer. Always does something interesting. He played Necroskidder at Grand Prix Seattle.
Wow. Okay. 6 Grand Prix money finishes. Yeah, that's a nice stat for somebody. I mean, second pro tour ever, first time he sort of qualified through the ranks. 6 Grand Prix money finishes, 10th in Dallas was sort of the highlight there. He's from Fort Collins, Colorado.
Yep, podcaster. Does very articulate talking about the game. I was very impressed with him yesterday.
And he was the one who played the 5-color aggro deck, right? Ziggurats and
yes.
Somehow he's got
Syndraxis, Spectre, Rox Warmonk, and Wooly Thoktar all coming down on turn 3 in his deck. Not at the same time.
He's talking and Blood Braids to flip them up, right?
Yeah.
So he plays Blood Braid Elf and just all the best 3-drops.
Yeah.
It's funny.
But he didn't play Blightning, which was very interesting. Right?
Really?
Yeah, he didn't play Blightning.
Well, you can't Ziggurat it, right?
And that was exactly right. He didn't play Blightning, and he didn't play Maelstrom Pulse. Which were two, very ubiquitous cards in those decks. Even as you went up to the 5-color versions, right? Because it's just so exciting to flip either of those cards off of a Blood Braid Elf.
Right. Draft strategy, draft Esper or Grixis, move into 5-color control if possible.
And that's exactly what he did.
And
he 6-0'd the draft yesterday.
Yeah,
he called this his second best draft of the 3 drafts he's done.
Okay.
This weekend. So
best non-Magic thing he did in Hawaii, Day at the Beach.
There was a lot of that in the profiles.
Sure. Kibler's best non-Magic thing, eating at Sushi Sasabuni on Dave Williams, thanks to the credit card game.
I cannot argue with anyone eating at Sushi Sasabuni, claiming that we ate that again last night.
So good.
If you're in Hawaii, go to Sushi Sasabuni.
If you're in the Central Pacific, right, you're in Guam, Fiji, you got to go to this restaurant. Right. Unbelievable. Yeah. Expensive, but
best meal you've ever had in your life?
Totally worth it. Best meal I've ever had in my life.
Same.
Well, it looks like we're about ready for the quarterfinals. Kibler had the mulligan down to 5, but we're going to go see how he can do with those cards. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with the quarterfinals.